Hello, it's Shereen from HR Rewired. Issue number 24, I'm just going to talk about one article, and that's the legal right to disconnect. So The Guardian shared an opinion piece this week, brought to light by the Labour MP, who basically said that there should be a legal right for employees to not feel that they have to work outside of their contracted hours. Specifically, she's talking about the fact that responding to emails, messages, taking phone calls outside of working hours counts as an insidious form of unpaid labour. So from my perspective, actually feel like she's got a point. Now, I don't feel that we should get to a point where this needs to be legislated. However, I am well aware of individuals who feel like they're always under pressure and they can't switch off after work, whilst their employer is not enforcing them to check messages. If your boss is kind of firing emails or sending you messages via Asana, Slack, or whatever workplace productivity tool you're using, you could be forgiven for feeling like you kind of got to respond. Now, I've been there. I talk about the fact that years ago I was working for a company where it wasn't quite a 24/7 culture, but there was definitely an inference that you would need to be available. And actually, because of my personal circumstances, so I was a single mum at the time, and through choice, actually, I felt like I didn't want to be online all the time. I know people question my commitment, and short from saying I didn't care about my role, but that was a choice that I made. And I can't honestly say that the organisation, from a cultural perspective, supported that. So it does raise some interesting questions. I'm not sure how you feel about this legal right to disconnect. Do you feel, or have you ever felt under pressure to be on call, so to speak, after hours? And the reality is, I always say, when you look at the total amount of hours that you work, and when people say, I'm just working late as an exception, and then more and more they're working late to keep up with the job that they have to do. When you actually look at your salary and divide by the actual hours you work versus the hours that you're contracted to work, it may surprise you the patterns that emerge. So that's it for this week's edition of HR Rewired. As always, the link is below, and if you haven't subscribed, you can do. I'll be back next week talking to you about what's hot in the world of HR, business and tech.